Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and we're here with the relatively new Infiniti QX60. Now this is a 2024 model in this fully loaded autograph trim here, and it's just under $70,000 as we see it right now in this gorgeous grand blue color. Now while the QX60 isn't completely new for 2024, it was just recently introduced just a few years ago, and it's a very important model for Infiniti. Not only is it their volume seller, but it also previews their next generation of styling language, and it also is a very important vehicle because the rest of Infiniti's lineup isn't the most up to date. This is finally Infiniti's attempt at catching up to all of the major competitors in this very hot, very popular, and very crowded SUV segment, especially in this luxury sector. And while it doesn't compete with, I would say, the German brands and even some of our more newer offerings in the higher end luxury segment, it's a very competitive vehicle against things like an Acura MDX, even a Lincoln Aviator, as well as a Volvo XC90, and even some lower end, kind of more mainstream vehicles like a Kia Telluride and a Hyundai Palisade. So how does this Nissan Pathfinder based QX60 stand up against these competition? Let's go check this out today in this fully loaded QX60 autograph trim. Okay guys, so what's going on under the hood of the Infiniti QX60? Let's go find out. Now I would say one of the biggest areas of improvement on the new QX60 is under the hood, especially compared to the last one, and that is with the just general powertrain here. So we actually have a very familiar engine here. It's a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 mounted transversely just as it was before. But gone is the CVT. The continuous variable transmission that all of you guys constantly complained about is gone, and instead, Infiniti has gone with a very good choice, a ZF German 9-speed automatic gearbox. And this transmission is sending power to all four wheels. In this particular QX60, you can also get front-wheel drive as an option if you do want that. And it's an intelligent all-wheel drive system, which is really nice. So it can variable all the torque distribution. I think it operates more on a front-wheel drive basis most of the time. They kind of give you the best fuel economy you possibly can. And it's a decent powertrain. We'll get into a lot of this in the driving impressions, but I wish it was a new powertrain, maybe something turbocharged, maybe something hybridized. It's a little bit of an old feeling lumpy V6. It's only making around 295 horsepower and around 270-ish pound-feet of torque. Fuel economy isn't incredible. I think maxed out on the highway can do around 25 miles per gallon. Front-wheel drive models, I think, get 1 mpg better. I think around combined, you're getting 20 mpg. The real big charm thing with this QX60 and this powertrain is you can tow up to 6,000 pounds with that towing package this one does have equipped on it. So that is a very nice number here. Otherwise, I think it's a venerable, reliable engine. It's going to last you a long time, but it definitely is not the most powerful in this class, and it is not the newest or most refined powertrain in this class whatsoever. But it's decent, and I'm very happy that we have an automatic gearbox now because it's very smooth and it just works perfectly. Okay guys, here we are with the 2024 Infiniti QX60 autograph. And like I said, this is a very important vehicle in Infiniti, and we can kind of see their more premium styling language that we have now that will be coming onto their later models. And I have to say, it does look pretty good. They have this really unique new front end that's we've seen with Infinitis in the past, but I think it's been enhanced even more now. We also have, this one has an optional illuminated Infiniti logo we can see up front here, definitely stepping into modern times and trends with that. You can also see the Infiniti brand logo spelt out underneath the grille. Very prominent grille, and I think one of the cool things about Infiniti's design language is it has this very smooth sculpture to it, but it also looks muscular and aggressive at the same time, and we can kind of see that on the hood design over here. And this grand blue paint color definitely is a nice touch, very deep metallic finish, and it looks nice in the sunlight. Up front here, we can also see Infiniti's new kind of digital piano key LED headlights here. We can see our LED daytime running lights that are illuminated right now for the vehicle, and you can see this little cool Infiniti logo that's kind of plastered onto the side of that. Nice little branding touch there. One thing to note up front is that there are no fog lights on the QX60 in any of the trims. A little bit of an interesting omission there, but these headlights are incredibly bright. You can see here we have these nice wheels on this autograph trim. Now, I wouldn't say they are the nicest looking wheels. I wish there was something a little bit more premium looking, and I have to say these larger wheels do kind of hamper the ride just a little bit in the terms of stiffness in the chassis. We'll get to that in the driving portion of this video, but I think they do fill out the wheel arches well enough, and you do have a chunky amount of rubber on these wheels to kind of help you reduce the incidence of curbing your wheels, as well as just general all-season tires on here. I think they're pretty decent. Now the rear of the QX60 also adopts that kind of digital piano key styling with their LED lights back here. We can kind of get a little bit of a closer look here. It's almost as if they're smoked out on the bottom too, which is a kind of a nice little neat touch. And I do think the LED taillights look quite nice, very distinctive of a look here. You can also see the Infiniti logo spelled out back here, as well as we have our Infiniti logo on there as well. It's a very distinctive touch. It's a nice upgrade from the previous QX60. And of course, we have a tow hitch on this one if you haven't seen already. This can tow up to 6,000 pounds, and this tow package is pretty impressive. It comes with a transmission oil cooler. Now, getting into the rear trunk of the QX60 are a variety of ways. We can use our key fob here. We can also kick to open it as well, and there's a button. So let's just hold down our key fob to open up this power tailgate. Pretty quick in its operation as well, really like that. And you can see our rear trunk space here. And check this out, on this autograph trim, these are actually illuminated rear sills, and I think they're metal as well. Really cool touch here. I have not really seen that on any vehicle, and it kind of follows that digital kind of piano key style that Infiniti is going with. I really like that continuation of design here. One weird thing to note, I'm just going to point this out, is that this light is like the only light in the interior that is not LED. It looks like an older kind of incandescent style. That looks a little bit cheap to me. I wish they kind of thought about that, but the rest of the space in here is actually really quite impressive. This carpet in here is very thick. It feels very lush. Even the opening of this little underfloor storage tray here feels very soft. This is a thick foam pad here, and it stays open for you. You can see here we have some more storage under here, and this space actually is for that center console bit right here. You can see here this has captain's chairs here with that center console. That center console is removable and fits right back here if you want some more interior space. So that's a really cool touch they put in here, and I like how this stays open at almost any different angle, and it's very smooth operation to it. Now you can also see back here we have our third row that is folded down, and while it is folded down, we can get a quick look at our cup holders that we get on both sides of that third row seating area, as well as charging ports on both each side, which is really nice. Now, a weird thing to note back here is that you can actually use these buttons here to move up the third row seats. So I press the buttons and the third row seats are automatically coming up. They actually come up really quickly, which I do like. But to fold the seats down, you actually have to pull this lever to fold them down. You can't use those side buttons to fold the seats down. So that's one interesting thing I did note on the back of the QX60. It also looks like you have these manual pulls to kind of pull the seats up if you wanted to as well. So you have a few different ways to kind of operate this third row, which is pretty interesting. But nonetheless, you can see the cargo space difference when you have the third row up and down. And I actually quite like how much space you even have with the third row up. So, and you also have this underfloor storage area here as well. And I almost forgot to mention, you do actually have a spare tire underneath the vehicle as well. So even with a third row, you have all the additional cargo space, you still have a spare tire, which is a nice addition here. So kudos to Infiniti for including that. You can see here, the seats are up. I cannot use those buttons to kind of move them down. So that's one interesting thing to note. And of course, you have a full power tailgate as well. You can push that button and it should just shut up for us nice and easy. Okay guys, we're gonna go take a tour of the rear seats of the QX60 now, and we can check out how to get into this third row as well. So as you can see here, like I mentioned earlier, all four doors do have keyless access to them, which is a nice luxury feature. And I do actually really like this door panels in here. We have this nice premium leather material up here. You can see our open pore wood with more leather all the way on the nice touch points of the door panel. It's very soft and nice feeling as well. We have a manual rear sunshade, which is really nice, and you can also see some decent amount of storage for a water bottle down here, as well as some of your speakers for your Bose Performance Series audio system and an automatic window control here. Let's see how far this door opens. I wouldn't say a complete 90-degree angle, but it's definitely a nice wide opening to get in. And you can kind of see these little steps in here to get into the third row, which is a nice touch. Illuminated Infiniti side sill plate, which I believe is metal as well. And now let's try to get into this third row and see if I can fit back here. So how do you do this? Well, thankfully all the buttons are right here for you. So you literally just press this button. The seat kind of does this little ejection motion here. You kind of push it up a little bit even more to kind of get some more room to get into that third row. And now we can hop inside. So let's use these steps to hop inside the third row. Getting inside is a little snug, I won't lie, and now we're back here. So before I put the seat back and I'm squished, let's take a little bit of a tour. So we have these side windows here, which are nice to kind of get a nice little visibility out of here. Thankfully, you do have rear air vents for the third row passengers, which is a nice touch. some speakers back here, and we also have those 2 cup holders that we saw before, as well as a USB-A charging outlet, no USB-C. So it's a little bit of a snug space, though, I will not lie. You can kind of see that this second row seat is moved back just a little bit, and you can kind of see how much legroom that side of the third row passenger has. Back here, you also have this little storage tray, which looks like it has a little bit of a mat on here. And normally these headrests will be down, which is why they're down right now. Let's see if I can fit, oh boy, behind this seat. Now I'm 6 feet tall for reference, and I honestly I don't really like being back here, I won't lie. Thankfully there are these escape buttons back here if I want to kind of get out in a hurry. The seat kind of does that ejection motion and it kind of pops itself back. Now the good thing is that these seats are movable, so I can kind of put them at any place and then just lock them down. So as you can see here, with this seat moved up, I definitely have a little bit more leg room, but my foot space is really limited because there's kind of just a little bit of a tiny space in between these sidebars where you can put your feet in. So it's not the biggest third row on the planet at all. It's a little bit narrow back here, as this vehicle is a little bit narrower than its Pathfinder sibling, for example. So third row space is definitely not class leading, but it is usable if you do need to put some kids back there in a hurry. Getting out of the QX60 is needed. It's a little bit tight back there, but it's also pretty easy with this kind of wide opening space. And putting the seat back really is not difficult at all. You kind of just slide it back and it locks right into place there for you, which is nice. Okay guys, I'm going to try to demonstrate for you how easy it is to get this little center console thing out of the QX60. So all you have to do is there's a little cover right here. You just pull it off with some force. It comes off like this. Don't worry, it's supposed to come off. And there's just one lever right here, and that's it. It weighs like, I don't know, 10, 15 pounds. It's really not heavy at all. Very light, and it feels very sturdy. And then you can go put it right in the rear trunk. So let's go do that now. Okay guys, we have our center console here. We can just kick open the trunk pretty easily like that while you're still holding it. You never really have to use your hands. And thankfully it's so light, you really could use it with one hand or just hold it. Open up your little storage tray here. It stays in place. You pop in your little center console here, close it up, lower folds flat, and then I could just honestly just kick it again. It should close. And now you have more room in that center row. So let's go check that out now. So guys, now with that center console out, you can kind of see how much more space is now opened up in the middle of the QX60. So if I'm sitting back here, I have a little bit more room here where passengers could climb in and out of that rear seat. A little bit easier though. You do still have these center armrests here to kind of impede a little bit on that space, but it is a little bit of a better pass-through to get in and out of there instead of having to fold the seats completely down. Maybe you have a car seat or something here you don't want to be able to, or you're not able to fold these seats down all the time. You can kind of get this a little bit of a better area of space in here, which is quite nice. I guess you could put this little cover back there as well, but it's super easy to take out, and I really appreciate Infiniti allowing you to do that and making a space in the trunk where it fits so perfectly. Okay, getting inside the QX60 is pretty easy. Like I said, we have our key fob here before. Similar style key fob from older Infinitis, though it has been like slightly reshaped just a little bit for the QX60. We do have remote start here, so if I lock it, press it twice, it does start up for you guys really nicely. Now hopping inside the QX60 is pretty simple. Just use our keyless access here. Doors will unlock as you hear there, and we can go inside. Like we saw on the rear end, we have these really nice door panels here, leather all around it. We have that open pore wood, memory seats on this one. We have our Bose Performance Series audio system speakers. Again, lots of controls here, and we have massaging front driver and passenger seats, which is a really nice touch, and an even bigger area here for some water bottles and storage. Illuminated aluminum side sill plates, which is a nice touch. Really big, wide floor mats with the QX60 and Infiniti logo here. We also have some storage under here for this nice pass-through. And let's hop inside and check out these really cool semi-aniline leather seats that we get and the autograph trim that are unique to this specific trim, with the white piping around it, the cool diamond style stitching. Closing the door, nice solid thunk. Our start-stop button's actually in the center console here. And we have the QX60 come to life. Okay guys, so what do we have going on in this new Infiniti QX60? Off the bat here, I do have to say this is a really nice looking interior. The design in here is very swoopy. You have a lot of nice materials in this autograph trim, and you actually can get a lot of the stuff in the sensory trim, which is really a lot cheaper than this particular one. And the other Infiniti QX60 trims are also cheaper and also get a lot of nice features. But this one is the only one where you can get these exclusive seats on this one, which is really nice. Now there's leather actually everywhere here, but I want to talk about this really nice brown or kind of dark brown or dark black open pore wood trim that spans the entire dashboard and onto the front door panels. That nice stitching and quilted leather up on the dash as well feels very premium. They did a really good job on the general design of this interior. We have a leather wrapped steering wheel is here. This whole center console also appears to be wrapped in that same either soft touch material or leather. It feels fantastic. This is padded. Even the center console here is stitched with leather. But in here, we do have a lot of modern tech. Infiniti has caught up, I would say, to a lot of competition. There's nothing in here that I'm going to say that's class-leading like whatsoever, or either outstanding. There's some things that are a little bit outdated, but we do finally have all the technology you would expect in a modern vehicle. Up here, we have a massive 10-plus inch heads-up display here. It's only displaying the speed right now, but when you have your driver assist functions on, it kind of takes over the whole display, as well as route guidance, I believe. We have a digital cluster here that can actually change the views by pressing this little change meter button. The graphics are not the best, and I would call them like 2015, 2016 Volvo with their Sensa system kind of style, but it looks fine. I think it's nice that we have a digital dash, and there's a lot of different menus and screens you can go through to kind of customize them. The only way you can actually get the map on there is if you have a destination set. So I set a destination on the map here. We'll just put in, let's say, Dunkin' Donuts, for example, and I put in Dunkin' Donuts as a new destination. I'm going to say start route. And then I believe I can have the map put up into this center display here. Let's see. And it does come up here. It's in the night mode right now. So that's the only way you can actually get a map up here. Otherwise, you can use Apple CarPlay, which is wireless, though Android Auto is actually a wired function, which is really interesting. And you can cancel your route right there. So that's an interesting touch here. And then we get to this infotainment display here. So as you saw in the map screen here, it is huge, right? But you can only use the rest of the entire infotainment system with it like this. So this is your infotainment system. You cannot get rid of this little side screen here. And even in Apple CarPlay, you cannot get rid of the side screen. So Apple CarPlay is only that half of the screen, which is really annoying. Apologies, as I'm filming with my phone right now, so I can't demonstrate that. But I honestly find that a little bit annoying. Thankfully, the infotainment system is very quick now, as you can see. And you also have a physical control style knob here. You can kind of cycle through everything. A majority of the stuff on here is Sirius XM based, or I guess GPS based things. And you do have audio information displays. And you can actually customize this display here. If you go to settings, customize menus, and customize split screen, you can have it to be any of these different things right here. You can even have Apple Maps show turn by turn here, not the map, but just the turn by turn directions, which is nice. And you can have other things running. So I guess it could be useful, but I wish you had the ability to just use this entire display, because as you saw with the maps here, it's just gorgeous when it's fully being used. So I hope there's a software update or something that Infiniti allows you to do that. But right now, you can only use kind of this half of the display unless you're using the inbuilt navigation system. And you do have a drive mode selector. You can see will pop up here. Eco, Auto, Sport, Personal, and you do have a snow mode as well. And unfortunately, it doesn't change any of the gauges, but at least you do have these drive mode options here, which is nice. I do like the snow mode feature as well. Quick access for your auto stop start, auto brake hold, electronic parking brake. Nice stuff here. We have a really big wireless charging mat that unfortunately doesn't really charge my phone very much, and it gets very hot here. But we do have a USB-C and A port hidden back there, and two big cup holders right there, which is really nice. And I really like this kind of display, or the design of the dash, where it kind of curves around, giving like the passenger their own kind of cockpit style, as well as the driver, but also making all these controls accessible to both front passenger and driver. Another one of my favorite touches has to be this separated, thankfully, Infiniti climate control system here. So as we can see, this is actually a haptic touch panel. So if you kind of listen closely when I press my heated seat button, you kind of get that kind of little haptic touch sound here. It's kind of loud, actually. You can see how the lights will illuminate. You do have, like I said, your climate controls are all here. There's no screen in there for your climate. It's all on this page here. So you can turn them all on by pressing this button here. You have a physical control dial here for your temperature gauge right there, which is nice. And you can control your rear climate here with this center button. You can control it like this. You can turn it on or off, and you can lock it as well. It's a little bit cluttered when all of the lights are on, but it is kind of really simple and easy to use, and you don't have to be digging through menus in the infotainment screen to kind of access your climate stuff. My only real complaint is I don't like how the volume knob is actually here. Yes, I do like there's a volume knob, but I wish it was like closer to this little thing here, because sometimes I found it weird trying to like use this to kind of control display and then having to kind of jump back and forth between these two. It's a weird little ergonomic action I've noticed. Otherwise, it's nice that we actually have a physical volume knob, so thank you, Infiniti, for doing that. And honestly, I have to say the build quality in here is honestly really good. Everything's very, very solid. No creaks, no rattles. I would say just some of these plastics don't feel $70,000 worth. They're definitely lifted off of Nissan products, and a lot of this stuff is Nissan products based. So there is that to kind of keep in mind, but generally I have to say it's a pretty well built and nicely designed interior. So I have to give Infiniti props. And one thing to point out here before we go and take this thing on a drive is the digital rear camera option, or digital rear view mirror option you can see right here that has our home link integrated into it. This is useful if you have kind of kids in the third row or a lot of stuff in the rear trunk you can't really see out. I don't personally use this all the time. I just use the regular mirror because the visibility back here really is not bad. But if you do need it, you do have it, and it is an option there. And it's pretty clear, but what isn't clear is the backup cameras or any of the 360-degree view cameras. Pretty low resolution. They're kind of grainy, honestly, and I wish they kind of improved this. This looks like an older style system. I appreciate that there is a 360-degree surround view monitor, but it's just the camera quality is just not up to par with competitors, I would have to say. Other than that, it does have a lot of motion detection, it does have trajectory, and there are parking sensors as well on the Q50, so it will keep you safe. It just visually, I wish it was a little bit more appealing. Enough rambling though, let's go take this thing on a drive. Okay, everyone. And putting the Infiniti QX60 into drive is pretty simple. You literally just pull this little lever back and you're in drive. Mild throttle inputs, nothing too crazy there, and you're already up to speed. Now, I have to say this is a decent amount of power for the QX60 though. Once you start comparing it to some of its rivals, I have to say that this engine just doesn't feel very new, premium, or very high-end, and that's because it is an older engine. I guess it's good for reliability, but there's no kind of 48-volt systems, mild hybrid, or anything you're gonna find on this powertrain whatsoever. You just have that ZF 9-speed automatic setting power to all four wheels, and that old naturally aspirated V8 under a V6 under the hood, and that's about it here. I'm gonna pop it into sport mode. It really does not do much, just really just kind of enhances the throttle mapping as well, I think, as the transmission. And just going around this corner, you can kind of get a little bit of a sense of how this thing handles, and it's just, if you're looking for something that's a handling SUV that can still haul people around, you're not going to be looking at an Infiniti QX60. It is soft, wobbly, just tuned for comfort, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just a preference. I like sportier handling vehicles. This is not that. It's just a comfortable family SUV, and I think that's where it excels at the most. If you're going to be wanting something that's sportier, you're going to want to go with some of the main competitors, such as an Acura MDX Type S, or even a Mazda CX-90 now in the higher end trims of its turbocharged inline 6 is a fantastic offering. And if you want to step up a little bit more, I guess maybe a Lincoln Aviator with a dynamic handling package could get you a little bit more stuff in your chassis, but even that is on the softer end of things. It's definitely on the softer end of things. It's kind of focused on gliding and comfort. So that's what the Infiniti QX60 is like to drive. It's on the softer end, and you have to remember this chassis is actually not ground up new compared to the old QX60. It's a reworking of the Nissan D Platform that the old QX60 was based off, as well as the Pathifinder. They do share a platform, and pretty much they're mechanically identical. And they did add new structural components. There's new high-strength steel, reworked bits, but it's essentially at the core of the same platform as before. And I think that's fine. There's no adaptive dampers, no air suspension whatsoever. And I have to say, generally, when you're going in a straight line or just cruising around town most of the time, this suspension's very comfortable. It kind of just wafts along. Like right here on the highway, it's also very quiet in here. There's noise insulation throughout all of the body panels, and you can kind of tell it's really nice and well insulated in here. And I believe this window and your front glass is additionally laminated and noise insulated to kind of give you that quiet comfort area. There really also isn't any wind noise I've kind of noticed in the QX60 on highway speeds, which is fantastic, and which is really nice because these mirrors are absolutely massive, and normally you would expect to kind of hear some wind noise on them, so it's good that they kind of toned that out there. I'll say though that while the suspension is kind of soft and nice generally,
I'm not sure if it's these larger wheels that we have on this particular QX60 Autograph, or if it is just the suspension, because this is the only QX60 I've driven. But when you kind of hit a little bit of some broken pavement or a bump, there is this really harshness that is kind of felt in the cabin that just does not feel super premium. I will say the layout of a lot of the settings in the Infiniti are very interesting. They put a lot of stuff jam-packed in this display here, like your light controls. You can see in the settings button here, vehicle dynamics controls, all of the driver assistance settings are in here. You can also customize some of the little displays in here. So it's really interesting of how they have that laid out. A lot of this screen is kind of focused on some of the comfort things, but a lot of it's also here. So there's a lot of stuff all over the place. I wish it was a little bit more centralized. Paddle shifters here. Oh, a lot of body roll. Okay. All right, we're gonna put that back into auto. This car does not like to be driven in a sporty manner, I guess I would say. The transmission is like buttery smooth 90% of the time, but the second you try to kind of like shift it and play with it, it doesn't really like it too much. And it's not tuned for that. It's tuned for more of that comfort aspect. And I have to say, this is actually a really good system from Infiniti. They've been doing these driver assistance features for quite a bit, actually, for a while. So I do have to give them some prompts for that. So how do you activate your driver assistance systems? Well, like I mentioned before, all of the settings for them are actually in this display up here, so you actually have to change them kind of while you're stationary, because it doesn't really let you sometimes. But to activate it, it's pretty easy. You literally just press this blue button right here, and you can press set, and it's on. That's it. I love when automakers make activating your kind of radar cruise control systems easy and seamless. When they're a little bit clumsy and confusing, I think they kind of reduce confidence in the vehicle, and I think it just makes it a little bit more of a complicated experience for the driver. But this is a generally pretty good system to use. As you can see here, we're just on the highway now. We have our lane keeping and centering assist on. We have blind spot. We have all of the sensors around the vehicle monitoring what's happening, and it's a pretty nice display here, and it also displays that information up in your heads-up display as well. Very easy to change your speed, and you can also change your following distance pretty easy as well. From these buttons, you have, I think, 3 different areas of following distance or distance control you have on the QX60. Now, it doesn't have any of the higher end features of lane changes assist, for example, so you do still have to automatically lane change. Make sure you check your mirrors, your blind spot warning will assist you there, but which is fine. But you have to keep in mind some vehicles like a Kia Telluride, which is going to be a little bit cheaper than this QX60, but just a little bit, it does offer things like that lane change assist now, and it can have a pretty nice interior as well, and a little bit more space in the interior. And while we are out here on the highway, I do want to test out for you guys this Bose Performance Series audio system we have, and it's generally a pretty good system. It's a similar branded system to the one I just had in a Cadillac CT5 V Sport, though I have to say, just off the bat, that one definitely sounded a lot more premium and more kind of worked out. This one's okay. We'll get to test it in just a second. So we have, I think, 17 speakers in this one, and we have those really cool speakers mounted onto the doors right there, which almost look like they are the door handles, which has been a little bit confusing sometimes for me, actually, because I keep reaching for these things instead of the door handles up here. But it's generally a pretty good speaker system. There's speakers everywhere here. They're up on the A-pillars here. We also have those speakers, like I mentioned, on the doors behind us in the 3rd row. So you got plenty of speakers in here. So let's see how they interact. But right before we do that, I want to show you guys our audio settings, which does take a little bit of time to kind of find in here. So you're gonna have to go through a few menus to get to your audio settings. I think I'm gonna have to press settings actually, and then you can press sound settings here, and you have adjustments for your bass, treble, balance, fader. You can turn on Bose audio pilot, as well as Bose center point, and you have a surround volume control, as well as the driver's audio stage, which will focus the audio on the driver specifically, which is a nice feature. So you have a lot of nice technology on here in terms of the speakers settings, though nothing too crazy. There's no kind of like different concert hall themes you can kind of choose through on some of the higher end systems. But I'm going to play this audio for you guys so we can get a little bit of a taste of what it's happening. I do like when I press the audio button, it takes me right into Apple CarPlay, so I know I'm using it. I'll test out our volume control first. you can hear, it does get very loud. And on some audio tracks that I've heard, some voices that I've heard on some sounds get a little bit muffled sometimes on the higher end of the audio, and everything kind of just starts to wash together just a little bit. So those separation between like the bass and the treble and those voices get a little bit kind of blended together on the higher end, but I've heard on some audio tracks. I don't believe it sports kind of the newer standards like Dolby Atmos yet. That's still very new even in the automotive industry, and a lot of just higher end luxury manufacturers are really just implementing that now. But it generally, for the average general ear, it's a good audio system. It's pretty strong. I just have a little bit of some complaints on the higher end that the audio kind of just drowns out a little bit, and sometimes some of the different audio channels just aren't super as clear on different levels. Like I do gotta pump it up a little bit to kind of get that system working. I do like though how you are able to kind of control the surround volume settings individually compared to the other settings. So if I scroll down here, if I go to my surround screen, I can increase the surround volume. So you can kind of get a little bit of hint like that, and you can also turn on and deactivate the Bose autopilot, as well as the Bose center point. The center point's definitely going to help you kind of to get a little bit more of a fuller sound. I think the autopilot, I believe, is based off of speed to kind of adjust the volume. And if I want to center it on me as a driver, I can press this on, and it will kind of focus the area of up here more versus the rear seats. So yeah guys, that's just a quick audio test for you for this Bose performance audio system. And as you can see, we are stuck in traffic here. It does have traffic jam assist as well, so it will come to a stop and go for you, which is fantastic on this driver assistance systems. So yeah guys, this is the 2024 Infiniti QX60, and I have to say, generally I've been a little bit more impressed than I was going to be going into this. I thought it was going to just be same old Infiniti stuff, but what I have to say is they have caught up to modern times finally. We have a great, decent infotainment system, digital dash, good heads-up display, good audio system. We have some of these cool touch controls, a very nice and well-designed interior, I do have to say, and I think they're on a better path than they were before. There's a lot of areas that need to be more improved, and I think we're going to see that over the coming few months and years as we are in 2024 now. They have a lot of new products coming out, new EVs that they're planning, and hopefully we'll kind of see that spread across, these features spread across the entire lineup, and hopefully every model will get an automatic gearbox if that still has gas and not a CVT. Anyways guys, thank you for joining me on yet another video and drive with Allcarnews, and as always, stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.